What is going on, everyone? My name is Drew Spencer with the React and Attack Football Podcast, where we try and go over NFL content from all 32 teams every single day. And boy, oh boy, there's always something going on in the NFL world. And if you like what you hear, make sure to like and subscribe. And let's go. An awesome slate of games yesterday, at least the ones I'm going to bring up and talk about. Um, and the first one that comes to mind is the Rams and the Colts. And before I start this, I had a friend ask me yesterday while watching the games, like, where would you put Matt Stafford in your top quarterbacks, like in the rankings? And I was like, he'd be number 5. And yesterday, he was slinging it all over the damn place against a solid defense that were looking to, you know, stop Matt Stafford at every possible way. They were given the pressure. I mean, the Colts came in with a pretty damn good game plan, and it was a very, very good, close game, almost going to overtime until the Rams were able to punch it away and pull away at the end there. And so many great throws from Matt Stafford yesterday. And another guy I want to bring up is Puka Nakua, who we know how good he's been for so long. His first year he broke the receiving record for rookies, and then last year he was hurt, but still had a pretty respectable season in the games that he was available for. I think in the 11 that he played. Uh, this year to start the year, he's been at the absolute best receiver in the NFL. Like really, like his production is insane. His yards after the catch, his separation, his clean cuts on all his routes of abilities. I mean, Puka Nakua had 170 yards for 13 grabs. He was this Rams offense, and they have a ton of playmakers as well that got really involved as well. I mean, Devontae Adams got a touchdown today. Kyron Williams, their running back, was cooking towards the end of the game. But yet, when it needed to, when they needed something, get into the red zone, get the touchdown, or at least get near it to set it up, Puka Nakua was the guy. And he has firmly, so far in this season, been head and shoulders kind of above the league. And he's getting all the targets because Matt Stafford trusts Puka Nakua. They have absolute great chemistry, and they're just dominating on that. But I don't want to take too much away from the Colts, though, in this game, because on the other side, they had a pretty nice offensive game, too. Now, Daniel Jones, the 2 picks, people are going to look at that and obviously, be like, yeah, see, he's not, this is what we're waiting for. But I mean, overall, I don't really think he had a terrible game. What really kind of hindered the Colts was despite JT having some good runs, they weren't able to get a lot of those, for sure yardage with him. And that kind of set them behind the 8 ball of what they like to do. And I but overall, like this offense was still cooking. Michael Pittman was going. How about the rookie Tyler Warren, who they're using everywhere? He gets lines up as a fullback slash running back, halfback kind of system, just runs it up the middle. Tyler Warren, obviously, Penn State played everything there, so it's awesome to see him get utilized. But he was an absolute dog today, man. Um, just exciting 2 teams to see. Now, the biggest the biggest baffling moment though was Daniel Jones had, in my opinion, one of the greatest throws of his career. Well, probably his best throw of his career because it was a textbook perfect teardrop throw into the hands of Adonai Mitchell, he also had a really good catch adjusting into it because he had a defender over him, so he had to, position his arms to make the grab. Mays sets himself up, falls right in the breadbasket for him. He's running. He's looking to celebrate because he breaks off, and then he does what we see probably once or twice a year. This egregious fucking thing where receivers are looking forward to celebrating and doing their next TikTok dance move or something before crossing the plane, and that touchdown gets negated, which would have been, and they lose this game by it. There was still time on the clock, obviously, but I mean, if the Colts, if Adonai Mitchell doesn't screw that play up, there's a very real possibility the Colts do not drop this game and they are able to weather out Stafford and this elite Rams offense. That's how close this game was. Um, So I mean, an egregious play by Adonai Mitchell there. I mean, if I was a coach, man, I'd be like, dude, you cannot until you are directly in the middle of the end zone. You better hold on to that damn ball, or I don't know. Like I'm not saying I'd cut someone but I would maybe bench someone for a few plays because it's like, what are you doing? Like, get your head out of your ass. Basically dropped it. Again, it's more just a really good game, and that was a stupid move. There was still a lot of time on the clock, but definitely a play that Colts fans would like to have back. Going into the Sunday night game with the Packers going into Dallas, obviously the talk of the whole town and the media was all about Micah Parsons, the Micah Parsons revenge game. You know, Packers, Cowboy fans, just people around the league have circled this game for a while now because of all the narratives. And I love narratives so much that I get sucked up into them. And here I was putting down a free $5 bet that I had on a parlay, which I was able to win. And I had Micah Parsons getting just a sack. And I was like, he could do that, especially with all the crap that he's been talking. And, he's going to go out there with something to prove. Well, Micah Parsons was not the story of this game. He did get me that sack, which was nice, but that's about it. He was a non factor. And even though they lined him up a lot, all over the place, the Cowboys were ready for him. But it wasn't just that Micah Parsons wasn't a factor. It was both of these teams' defenses were basically saying, hey, let's see how much these quarterbacks can do. Because Jordan Love 337 yards and three touchdowns. Dak Prescott, 319 yards, three passing touchdowns, four total with his quarterback draw play. Um, these guys were slinging it, and we got that mixed up. I think after the shoddy performance from Jordan Love against the Browns, this was a game where all eyes on him. I even talked about how bad he had against the Browns, and yes, an elite defense, but here he was coming back out, first drive of the game, just slinging it downfield. They score, they capitalize. He does that all game, and then Dak on the other side is like, hold my beer. As he's the one going out there on the next alternating drives, and it wasn't at least until I guess the end of half because the Packers were looking like complete control of the game. It was 13-2, I believe, after a 2 point conversion was picked off and returned by the Cowboys. And then the momentum went all in the way of Dallas from there. And then it was like, okay, Jordan Love, we need you the next half to really get going. And he did. And same with Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. They're like, if we want to win, we're going to need you guys going, and the offenses were going. I mean, so many questions about for both teams. I mean, CeeDee Lamb out for an extended period of time. So it was like, oh, can George Pickens, who ideally you want as your number two, can he step up and be the number one when he's had drop issues over this course of his time with the Cowboys? And boom, he comes up and he has an incredible game. Amazing couple grabs. I mean, a human highlight reel when it comes to just contested grabs. I don't really think there's many guys better than him in the league at just going up there and just snatching it right out of your fucking hands and coming down with the ball in crazy contorted ways. Don't know how he does it. Is he always Mr. Reliable and consistent? Unfortunately, his career so far has not said that. But today, when asked and to be the leading guy for Dak, he rose up to that. Nobody's business. Um, and this offense for both teams kind of blew my mind because I really didn't think, especially after that first half, I was like, even though the Cowboys got their momentum back, I was like, I just don't know if they're going to be able to sustain it the same way. And nope, they had no problems answering there. Very inspiring to see that Coach Schottenheimer, who a lot of people are just wrote off, me included, because he just came out of nowhere and just seemed like he was going to be another yes man for Jerry, kind of like Jason Garrett was in the past. Well, dude, I don't know, man. He's kind of got this offense like cooking. Javonte Williams is been doing good. He has a young offensive line that's getting cohesively better throughout. Like, is this going to turn into an amazing season for Dallas? I don't think so, but like I'm actually pretty intrigued, I guess, with where they're going. At least after this game, which did end in a tie. I mean, I didn't bring this up to begin with, but yeah, this game ended in a tie because it was so back and forth. And when it came down to crunch time, and the final few minutes of the game and going all the way till the end of overtime and regulation of overtime for it to go into the tie. It was blow for blow. Constantly, these teams making big chunk plays. I mean, that big time throw that Dak Prescott had in overtime to get them set up, and it almost looked like they were going to set up and win there, and then to get the touchdown, they didn't. They settled for a field goal. Green Bay Packers defense comes up in a big way. Micah Parsons gets that sack that I needed, and that so essentially, and that helps them get the field goal. And then it's you know the Packers' turn, and they get really lucky. They're out of timeouts in overtime as the clock is winding, and they're not spiking the ball. They Matt LaFleur on third down says, "Hey, let's go for it again. Let's get another touchdown here." And Jordan Love gets absolutely lucky that the ball falls to the ground at literally 1 second. Otherwise, that ballsy call, which they had run a similar call earlier in that game to send this game essentially to overtime with Romeo Dobbs, or at least put them in front to at least let yeah. Either way, that throw to Romeo Dobbs in the beginning, like the fourth quarter, towards the end of the fourth quarter, I should say, was like this kind of same routine principle throw that they were trying to get at the end of overtime, and they are lucky that it fell with 1 second left to get the field goal unit out there. Otherwise, this would have been a Cowboys victory. But wow, just impressed by both of these quarterbacks, and that's the biggest takeaway that I have here. I think if you're a Packers fan, you're really bummed that this was a tie. It's better than a loss, right? And I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you're like, yeah, I'll take this. Another huge game that fits the narrative debate was the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs game, and a game that both teams coming into it 1-2. I think a lot of people weren't expecting that going into the year, and what they either of these teams really needed this victory, and the Kansas City Chiefs win this one very convincingly. In a game where Mahomes plays well, right? Even though I do think Mahomes hasn't been all that terrible over the course of the season. But the reason why he plays so well is, whoa, he gets his deep shot back in Xavier Worthy, who hits the ground running quite literally, and flying all over. It opens up that aspect. Um, Travis Kelsey, he didn't make any mental blunders this game. Was fine. He had some good catches over the middle, but I mean, like, it was mainly just this team getting things going on these big shots to guys like Xavier Worthy or Rasheed Rice, or sometimes getting the ball out in the backfield to guys like Isaiah Pacheco. I'll talk a little bit more about him, but yeah, Patrick Mahomes looked great, man. 4 touchdowns, around 270 yards. I mean, he's kind of back in the swing of things, and it's nice to see. But my biggest hot take that I have, and I know that he caught a touchdown this game, but I've talked about him before, but Isaiah Pacheco, man, like, what has he done for this team in a while? Like, sure, he caught a few passes out of the backfield yesterday, but I mean, like, he's not really running with that same force you like to see. I haven't really seen that for the last like season and a half. I feel from Isaiah Pacheco, even though he meets the check marks, right, about like, oh yeah, he should be a strong power bruising back. It's just not really seeing that power anymore from him. So again, I think the Chiefs' biggest flaw really is, why can't this run game get going, a little bit more with him? But on the flip side, and that's just my pet peeve about the Chiefs and this big absolute victory, that they absolutely needed to get back on track. Absolutely, as the AFC continues to still have some heavy weight hitters, for sure. But the Ravens, they could not run the ball. And we find out in that game around the beginning of like the third or mid third quarter, Lamar Jackson goes out onto the sideline, and he, I guess, rushing his injury or got a little bit more banged up in that game. And John Harbaugh was like, hey, we're already trailing by 20 points. We're not letting this happen. And Lamar definitely looked off yesterday. Now, he was going up against a pretty solid team, of course, and a lot of, absent guys, mainly on the defensive side of the ball, but, they couldn't get anything going. Derrick Henry was stood up outside of Justice Hill, who had 2 touchdowns, one at the beginning of the game for a 71-yarder, and then one at the tail end of the game when it didn't matter. And if you bet on Justice Hill to get you 2 touchdowns, you're thrilled as hell that at the last second he gets you one on a long one. But outside of that, nothing. They really had nothing going for them in the run game department, and it was due to Lamar Jackson hobbled. Now he's not just hobbled, and I am worried about this Ravens season. Well, I'll learn more about how hurt Lamar is, and maybe this was just a lingering thing that he can maybe get bounce back from. But this team's already so battered up. Losing guys like Justin Matabike early on. I mean, their corners, their secondaries banged up. They guys across the board for the Ravens. This is a nightmare season. Um, they're kind of living in the same hell that the Niners are in right now in an aspect. So, um, hopefully they can turn things around. But this was a very, very big loss for this Ravens team. And on the flip side, the Chiefs are now. Everyone's like, "Oh, Mahomes is back." Well, he's been here, but you mean his receivers are coming back, and give him a couple more weeks. Rasheed Rice will probably be back, and if he can hit the ground running after the injury and stuff that he sustained last year, and after the suspension, kick off some of the rust, I'm not really worried about what Patrick Mahomes can do, man. So I mentioned this in another video I put up about the Niners' reaction to that game. And I wanted to touch up a little bit more. I usually do like 3 subjects or 3 games or whatever when I do these, but I had to put this one in. So looking around the league and these last few weeks, right? Um, so many special teams blunders. And that happens, right? But it seems like it's been more in our faces because it's been really sloppy. And it's like in that Vikings Steelers game had some sloppy special teams. I mean, we've seen the Niners game that I was talked about let up one. Packers have usually been in that situation. The Bengals last week in particular, they look bad in that. I mean, there's and the biggest thing I came to, my biggest hot take that I've come up with is that a lot of these teams, the Bengals, the Packers, the Niners, the Rams, obviously, all under the Kyle Shanahan slash, you know, Sean McVay coaching tree. And there's a lot of teams in the NFL that have a coach. I mean, damn near fucking half of it is are Kyle Shanahan slash Sean McVay disciples who have found themselves into head coaching positions or offensive coordinator gigs. You get what I'm trying to say. A lot of teams run the same scheme, the same principle, these same philosophies. Basically, the philosophy is with these young wave of guys, sorry, um, at the time with Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and stuff. Well, their big core philosophy is like, hey, let's just score 50 because if everything lines up here, we don't even need the most elite quarterback. They just got to be able to hit this because these guys are going to be schemed open. It's going to get yards after catch, yada, 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 all that kind of stuff. Their philosophy has always been let's score 50 points or so. That's a great philosophy. Yeah. It's a kick-ass philosophy. It's the reason why those teams in particular have had a lot of success. Um, but their biggest gaping weakness has always been their special team units. You look at Matt LaFleur and his special team units, Kyle Shanahan and his special team units, Sean McVay. I mean, damn near all these coaches and the rest of this coaching staff from year to year basis, they're all ranking towards the bottom because they just simply do not invest or care. And yeah, it's like, well, the Niners have drafted a kicker or a punter, and it's like, well, yeah, they don't like completely turn a blind eye. But outside of like maybe like the fundamentals of like, well, we definitely need a kicker to get a field goal to help get us 50 points, but like everything else is not lined up. That's why when I'm seeing these punt returns and these field goal blocks, some of these formations they're running are not just like the base set that it's like, oh, you're relying on, like they're having different pressures, they're trying to do different things, different stunts against the field goal blocking unit. And I feel like these teams that don't not have this coaching staff tree, they are the teams that are doing this and finding more success. Meanwhile, the flip side for the Shanahan guys is like they're getting fucked over. Now, again, this could be coincidence. Not saying this doesn't happen to other teams. I mean, Carolina let up a shitload of punt returns to the Patriots yesterday. They have nothing to do with that scheme and system, really. So, it could be coincidence, but that's been my overarching hot take theory. Yeah, love to see what you guys think.